All right, here's what we're working on today. It belongs to a friend of mine. I'm doing him a favor. Needs some minor cosmetic work. It's a 2010 Acura RDX, and you can see it's got there's some minor repairs needed. We're gonna take a look and see what we can do about it. It's missing a lot of its front end, a little bit of work on that door there, but let's see what we can do. Okay, well, we gotta get some of this snow to melt, and while we're waiting for that, I thought I'd just run something by you. So, when working on these modern vehicles, you gotta kind of think less in terms of stuff like these, and more in terms of something like this. That should go together, yeah, that's it, something like that. Okay, and there, yeah. Okay, that's how this goes together. All right, that's a good little template. Let's keep that in mind. Today we're just helping out a buddy with his Acura. So I don't usually do this type of work, but we're gonna give it a go because I know a little bit more about it than he does. Only a little bit more though. So I've already primed and painted the jambs on this door. He needs a door, he needs a fender, he needs his bumper done. So we're gonna get all that done. I've did the old hammer and dolly and taken out really low spots of this door. It's a used door, so we're just gonna put a little bit of Bondo on here, just smooth it out, get it nice and flat for him. And then we're gonna just give it the old spray can job, the high quality spray can job though, not the cheap spray can stuff. And we're gonna see how that turns out. I had pretty good results with what I've done so far on the jambs and some trim pieces, so it should be pretty good. But if you have any suggestions for us, always leave the comments down below, and ring the bell, subscribe, because we're always looking for more viewers so we can keep doing some of this and hopefully learn a little bit from you as well. Okay, well, first of all, we've sanded this down, got the gloss off of most of it. I left a little bit here so you can see kind of the gloss compared to how it's flat now. Don't know how well that's going to show up in the light, but you get an idea. Now, any of the dents we're doing, I just sanded this down with a very kind of a 320 grit just to scratch it up a bit and a Scotch-Brite pad. So, but if we're going to be doing Bondo work, then we want to rough it up with like an 80 grit, give it some good teeth to grab onto. So that's what I'm going to do now. Also, I have my soft pad here, so that I'm just going to do kind of an X pattern. I'm just going to get in here where we want to work it. And give the Bondo something good to bite onto. Now when you're doing this type of work, your hands are kind of your more important tools, more so than your eye, because your eye can trick you on a lot of this stuff. So there I can feel that it's got an indent, and it's just a little one, but it's there. And you can see like a little one here, but there's another one right there. These aren't very big, so we don't really have to get under them and pop them out. They're shallow enough that the Bondo will take care of that. So we're just gonna scuff it up, put some Bondo on there, and carry on. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're just mixing up the body filler, the Bondo, putty, whatever you want to call it, polyester resin, don't care. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna knead it or fold it, and we're also have it on the plastic here. The reason for that is a lot of times you can do it on a piece of cardboard or something, but it's not the best idea, because what happens is the cardboard can absorb the chemicals and you won't get the proper mix of ratio of the bonding and the hardener in there. So, and we're also we're gonna stir it a little bit. Okay, there we go. That should be lots. I'm going to start by stirring it. I probably got a little too much hardener in there, but that's all right. But then I'm going to fold it. And the reason I do this is to get all the air bubbles out of it as much as I can. Then we're just going to go take it to the panel and spread it to the areas that we need. I'm going to be somewhat generous with this because you know what? You're going to take most of it off anyways. And you know that this had a bunch of little door dings on it.
From being in the garage.
Yeah, someone liked to bang the door into it. That's definitely going to set up fast. Okay. There's one right here, I believe. There we go. Just make sure it's kneaded pretty good. I know there was another little one right there. Right there. Right there? That one's not too bad.
Gloss.
I think that one's okay. So we'll just give that some time to harden up and then we'll come back and sand it back down. That's all there is to it. Okay, so we've started sanding the Bondo down. We're just using 80 grit. You don't need to go to a light sandpaper yet. It's going to take a lot more work if you do. And you see right here, we still got a little bit of gloss right in that spot. That was our low spot right there. So you're going to let the paper do the cutting for you. Like I said, use a brick. And we're going to glide that over there. And the goal is we're going to take it at a couple angles. Typically you would do this in an X pattern. And we're just going to keep kind of working. And we're going to be careful of this body line right here. We don't want to destroy that. And we just want to keep working this until we get that glossy bit out. So sand it this way for a bit, and there you go. There it goes. You got most of that out now. Still a little bit there, but you can see how it's cutting into that. So when you hit that with a finer sandpaper, that'll take that out. And then we got rid of that low spot. It's nice and flat there now. So you can see, while it looked like we had a big area, it actually ends up being very, very little Bondo here.
Right.
So that won't crack or anything like that. Don't have to really worry about that.
Okay, a few more spots and then we'll start on the fender.
Nice and flat there, yeah. And we'll do a couple more under the fender.
Nice.
Okay, I'm still working through this, and another tip I want to give you is let the paper do the work. You don't want to be just reefing in there and digging on this. You just want it to cut in so that it's just using the block itself, and it'll smooth itself out. Like I said, kind of do an X pattern, a little bit this way, a little bit that way. And you see, Mike, we've got that other low spot over there now, right? You see how it's nice and all flat colored now?
Yep.
So when we hit that with a smoother grit, it'll just smooth it right out.
Start the next one, see if the same sort of thing happens.
Yeah. So again, we're just going to let the paper do the work for us.
Oh yeah,
you can see where the low spot is here, right?
Absolutely.
So we're just going to keep sanding this until all that comes out. We're going to hit at an angle like that. We're going to hit at this angle for a bit. And you can see that that low spot's pretty much gone. Now we do have a bit of an edge here. I can feel it with my finger, so that needs to be gone. We need to blend right in. Otherwise that's going to bleed right through. Okay.
And that's with the finer sandpaper?
No, we're going to keep going with the 80 grit. It actually takes quite a bit to get something like that out.
Okay.
So you can use a finer grip, you're going to be here for hours doing that. We don't want to be here for hours. We want to get this done quick. So
all right.
I'm just going to hit it a few more times with this. You'll be able to tell when it blends in. Once you get a fraction size of that, there you go. You can see it's kind of really softened now. And it's kind of feathering in, and that's it. Done.
Right.
That dent's gone.
Cool.
And we got no rough edges to catch it on, so we're good. Okay, we're gonna lay some primer down on this now, but we gotta prep it with the wax and grease remover first. So with the primer, I'm not too concerned about getting a little bit of dust or something in it. That's all gonna get sanded down again anyways, and it's not as critical as the color coat. I don't want it totally contaminated because that won't work either, but so it's kind of important when you do this. I'll do what not to do. Don't be rubbing it back and forth like that. That's not what you want to do, because you'll just rub all the contaminants back in. So you want a clean cloth, start and just kind of wipe it one way, and then do the next. And try not to dump the door. And then keep your cloth clean, keep it flipped. You can see how much white's on that. Right? So you're just going to rub that back in if you just go over the same spot. You might have to do it a couple times. I'm going to fold the cloth the other way. It's still pretty wet, so I think we'll be okay. Just get that away. We're just going to work our way down the door and just get it nice and clean. Exactly what I didn't want right there. What is that? This part I'm not as concerned about.
That has a panel on it, does it?
Yeah, it's got the panel over top of it, so we're not too worried about that. So right here you can see we got a little mark in the putty in the body filler. So right there is where you would use some spot putty. I'm going to do the right thing and not do that. I'm just going to prime right over that and sand her down. But normally you just put some spot putty in there and give it a little light sanding. Okay, that's pretty much ready for primer now. Should be good. And we got all the door open, so we get all the bugs and stuff in here. It'll be great. They just add a little bit of protein to the paint. It's good.
One of a kind.
Okay, you can see here I got 2 cans of primer. Now one is a sandable, fills light scratches. This is what's called a high build primer. That's what we want to use first. This is a sealer. What's the difference? Well, this is meant to fill in small scratches and stuff like that from the sandpaper, and then work to a smaller scratch that you can put a color coat on. This is meant for exactly what we have going on here. What it does is it gives you an even coat, and it seals in all this white color, and it seals in the blue and the grays, and it makes it all one consistent color, so that when you put your color coat on top, you don't have any bleed through and you have different color spotches. So that's what this is for. It's what the sealer is for. You don't always need the sealer, but you definitely need the primer if you want a nice smooth paint job. The other thing I'm going to do is there is one other primer I have, and that's the etching primer. I'm going to put a little bit on this bare metal before I put the high build on, just to help etch the metal. And I put out some rust inhibitor on some of these spots where I've seen a little bit of corrosion coming through, so that'll seal that up, encapsulate it. Then we'll hit the etching primer to treat the bare metal, and then we'll use the high build. So we'll get started.
Okay.
Okay, one thing I want to point out when I was talking about the primers is how the high build primer does not cover up the different material textures, and you can see it very well right here, I think, Mike, if you put the camera on that. There's a couple places you kind of angle it over there. You can see where the Bono just kind of sucked it in, just drew that primer right in. And so if you were to paint over top of this, you would have that show through the paint, and you don't want that. And that's where the sealer comes in. But we still need to put a couple more coats of primer on top of this because we want to be able to sand it down, smooth it out really good, and then hit it again. So
do you sand it right away, or do you put more primer on it before you sand?
Have to put a couple layers. You can only get about 10 to 15 minutes between. You can see it's still a little wet there. If you look, it's glossy.
Yep.
So that means it's still wet. And if you look here, you can see it's kind of got that flat matte finish to it.
Right.
That means it's pretty dry. You could probably put another coat down. But that's pretty thick there. We want to give that some more time. And then we'll put another coat on it. So meanwhile, we'll move over to the fender where we've kind of filled in some spots too. And the other reason we don't want to do that whole door with the fillable primer is it's already got the paint on, it's already flat. We're going to use the sealer just put a nice coat of sealer on there, make it all one color, then we can put the color coat on top of that. So the fender Mike's done a great job. He's filled in all the little dings and stuff on this. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna clean this up, wipe it down, hit it with some high build primer so that we can just scuff that out a little bit. And then we'll hit it with the sealer on this. And again, we're gonna use the sealer to give this all the same base coat, all the same color coat, so that, yeah, the sun's coming right in the window. Sorry, I don't know if that's helping or making things worse. So that when we put the color coat on this, it's all one consistent color. We don't want it bleeding through the different colors, because with this gray being darker than the white, it'll actually make the color coat darker, and that'll just totally mismatch. Now this thing did have, all these tended to have a gray primer underneath, including the white door. So we should be pretty good going with that gray primer, and it should match the original vehicle. So the gray fender did, the gray, or the white door did, this bumper cover did, even on the vehicle.
This had a gray primer originally?
Yeah, it's got a gray primer underneath. Even if we went out to the door of the original door, actually maybe we'll do that right now.
Sure.
We don't have a steady fan, but that's all right.
Yeah, we'll make people a little nauseous while we walk.
Yeah, exactly. Bouncing up and down as we walk. We think we're perfectly smooth. We're not. Oh, as smooth as our body work. So you come around here, you can see the color of this, and I don't know how much light's going to affect it. Right now we don't have the bumper on it. This is obviously got to be replaced. The fender's not on this side. You can see here where this door is scuffed up. We did a color test of the paint that we got. Looks pretty good, but you can see underneath through some of the layers that we got a gray primer under here. So by doing that gray sealer, we should be good, and we should be able to match up pretty close to that color. Might not be exact, but it'll be close enough for what my friend's looking for.
Yeah, be a good daily driver. What year is this again?
Oh, that's a heck of a question. I don't know, 2010 maybe?
Oh, okay. It's in pretty good shape once we slap all the parts back on together.
Yeah,
and it runs well?
It runs well. It's very low mileage. I don't even think this has 100,000 kilometers on it. I can't remember.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's pretty low.
About 60,000 miles?
Yeah, about that. Maybe 80,000 miles, but it's pretty low.
Right on.
And yeah, someone broke the window back here while it was in another lot so that they could break in and steal the battery out of it. Which we got a window for it. I don't know how to put that in. We'll let the glass guys do that. All right, let's get back to it.
Right on.
Okay, so I usually buy these bigger sheets. We're gonna move to 600 grit for sanding down the primer. Could do possibly 400 wet, 600 dry. And then I like to fold it into threes, give it a cut, and that'll go onto that block really nice. If you're using a longer board, you might just want to use that whole sheet there. You can also fold it the other way for threes, and it's a little bit longer. So, but this will work for our purposes. So I'm gonna get to it, and then we're gonna do our crisscross pattern. We got 3 coats on here. We're just gonna smooth this all out so that it's nice and even and flat, and then we'll hit it with the sealer, because you can still see, even with 3 coats, you got some bleed through of the Mondo patches.
Yep.
And once we get the sealer on that, you won't be able to see that bleeding through anymore. You see Mike's got the fender done over here. Maybe put one more coat of primer on that, but it's looking really good, looking really smooth. We'll make sure we get this body line captured again. But it's actually looking really good. You did a great job, Mike. So nice.
Thanks.
Let's carry on.
All right.
So we got our pad here, and we're just going to give it a little crisscross pattern here. Just very lightly. Like I said, let the paper do the cutting for you. Just a little bit that way. And then we'll do our X pattern that way. And you can see very clearly if you get down here, Mike, you can see the scratches from the...
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we're going to sand it to get all those scratches out. That's kind of the goal. And then we'll move on. And then again, we'll get in here too. You see some heavy scratches in here that we're going to want to take out. You know what? We might actually do this wet because it's plugging out the paper pretty fast. So if we do this wet, you want to put a little bit of water in there, a little bit of soap and water, keep the paper lubricated. But I want to show you what happens when you do it dry. That's about it. You get a couple scuffs each way and that paper's plugged up and it's no longer useful. So that's why we're going to do wet. Get some more sandpaper here.